This is WKYT This Morning.
Good morning from WKYT. We're so glad you're with us today. I'm Bill Bryant.
And I'm Rebecca Smith. We do have breaking news for you this morning. Pat Summitt, legendary women's basketball coach at the University of Tennessee, has died.
She's 64 years old. Very sad. She had elevated the game of basketball. More news on that coming up. Also at 6:30, we're following breaking news in Lexington. A large police presence on the south end of town. We're live with the latest on that just ahead.
We're also tracking a string of robberies in Lexington. Police think they may be connected. We're live with details coming up.
And today is set to be another unsettling day for world financial markets after Britain's vote to leave the European Union. That and much more on WKYT This Morning.
And we've got even better weather trying to settle in. It starts with today, we're around normal, but tomorrow into the 70s for highs. I'll track all of it here in just a couple of minutes, guys.
To the minute on this situation, we are tracking breaking news in Lexington this morning. A large police presence on the south end of town.
Police were called out to the Lansdowne Apartments on Malibu Drive just before 5 o'clock in the morning. The details right now still pretty sketchy, but our WKYT Mike Byer, he is there asking all the questions. What can you tell us?
Good morning, Rebecca. Police remain on scene here at the Lansdowne Apartments. They're near Tate's Creek Road. Now, we just spoke with an officer. Here's what we know right now. Officers were called to the scene just before 5 this morning. They tell us the call came from either the victim or a person who knows the victim. Police say the victim tells them he was on Woodside Court when 3 men approached him, robbed him of his electronics, and then shot him. Police say the victim then made his way on foot from Woodside Court over to the Lansdowne Apartments where officers tell us he lives. The victim also brought a trail of blood with him. It's on the sidewalk. From here, the victim was taken to UK Hospital with what police are saying non-life-threatening injuries. Police say he was alert and talking to them before he was taken away by ambulance. Now, as for the 3 suspects, police did not release a description of them. They don't have a description of them, but they say they took off in a black passenger car. Now, if we learn of any other breaking details, we'll be sure to update you on air, online, and through our mobile news app. Live in Lexington, Mike Byer, WKYT.
Mike, thank you. We're also following more breaking news here in Lexington right now.
Police say 3 businesses were robbed here in the city, including 2 gas stations and a Waffle House. Mark Barber is live with the latest information on this case. What can you tell us, Mark?
Good morning, Rebecca. And police are here on Detroit Avenue, which is less than a block away from one of those gas stations that was robbed. Officers say they found a cell phone and money in the street here, so they are now waiting for forensics investigators to get here to take a look at that cash, to take a look at that phone, to figure out if it will help them track down the 2 gunmen who robbed 3 businesses back-to-back in Lexington this morning. That first business that was hit was the Speedway gas station on Euclid Avenue. Then the 2 robbers targeted the Speedway on Winchester Road. And finally, they held up the Waffle House on Athens-Boonesboro Road. Police tell me the 2 masked men ran through these 3 robberies all in the space of just a few minutes. Now, the 2 gas stations that were hit, they have been closed through the morning as managers are now trying to count the money. Investigators do not have a description of what the masked men looked like, but they describe their behavior as aggressive. They tell me at one point, one of the robbers put a gun into the back of one of those clerks at the gas station that was robbed. Now, police here on Detroit Avenue again, waiting for forensics investigators to get here to take a look at the money and the phone that they found here, because they say they're trying to find these dangerous men as quickly as possible. Live in Lexington, Mark Barber, WKYT.
We are tracking breaking news this morning. Pat Summitt, the winningest coach in Division I college basketball history, has died. Summitt announced in 2011 she was suffering from early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. Summitt, who won a record 1,098 games and 8 national championships, helped put women's basketball on the map as the head coach of the University of Tennessee's Lady Vols. She is the reason the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame is in Knoxville. Summitt received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Obama in 2012 and was recognized by ESPN as its Arthur Ashe Courage Award winner. Such a loss this morning. The legendary coach, Pat Summitt, was 64 years old. Well, the Lexington Herald-Leader is actually making some major changes. Beginning August 1st, the newspaper will be printed and packaged at Gannett Publishing Services in Louisville. Herald-Leader president and publisher Rufus Friday says the move will allow the paper to focus its resources on digital news, information, and advertising operations. So quite the major change for the Herald-Leader. Now, they're going to sell actually their downtown building. That's the plan, at the corner of Main and Midland. Their newspaper offices will remain downtown, but a location has yet to be settled. The change will affect 29 positions in Lexington. Well, we saw a few showers pop up in eastern and southern Kentucky yesterday, but things look a lot calmer over the next few days.
And WKYT meteorologist Jim Caldwell is in our First Alert Weather Center tracking cooler temperatures and lower humidity for the rest of the work week.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic out there, guys, as we head through today into Wednesday. Highs only in the 70s. We're starting things off in the 60s out there this morning. And tomorrow we'll only be warming into the upper 70s. You will run into some areas of fog. We have a dense fog advisory out for some of our counties to our southwest of Lexington. Out in the southeast, they're also dealing with a lot of fog as well. Here's what we've got on our Defender radar network. Things you notice are pretty quiet throughout the entire area. Just the clouds still holding on out to our east. Those skies will clear. Here's what we expect over the next little bit through the day today. I think we're in the mid 80s for highs. Mix of sun and clouds. You might run into a renegade shower or two, but overall, a much calmer day coming your way with that drier air mass settling in. I will track that air mass coming up here in just a few minutes.
Look for you in just a bit on that. This is one of those days that started out one way, and then we've had so much news develop this morning. The death of Pat Summitt is something that is going to be talked about a lot today and throughout the days to come. And busy with some other breaking news. And then there's this major world story. Today looks to be another unsettling day potentially for world financial markets. Yesterday, the British pound sank to a 31-year low.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed nearly 900 points lower than it was before the UK voted to leave the European Union, and now leaders of both the EU and UK getting pretty serious about determining the next steps and what those could be. Kim Hutcherson has the latest.
All eyes turned to Europe Tuesday, where leaders are beginning to grapple with the logistics of last week's Brexit vote. British Prime Minister David Cameron meets with officials in Brussels, and the EU Parliament's Conference of Presidents holds a special session. Both German and French presidents are meeting with lawmakers in their respective countries. All this happening against the backdrop of market volatility that's seen trillions of dollars in wealth wiped off the books. A conservative former MP says Leave politicians didn't have a plan because they didn't expect victory.
I would have thought they woke up on the morning after the referendum and thought, oh my goodness, we didn't win, did we? What are we going to do now? I think they are afraid. I think they're very afraid of what they've unleashed.
And he believes even more people will come to regret their vote.
I think we're going to see buyer's remorse. I think we're going to see a gradual scaling down of the ambitions of the Leave campaign.
But no matter what path British politicians take in the short term, with global markets having lost a record $3 trillion since the vote, it seems the damage is already done. I'm Kim Hutcherson reporting.
A petition demanding a revote on the EU question has already amassed nearly 4 million signatures. The British Parliament considers all petitions that get 100,000 signatures or more.
A settlement has now been reached in a lawsuit over a song played at a rally for Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis last year. According to CNN, former presidential candidate Mike Huckabee is paying $25,000 for playing the Survivor song, Eye of the Tiger, without the band's permission. The song was played at a rally for Davis after she was released from jail for denying a judge's order and refusing to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples.
Boyle County Police say a couple killed in a crash over the weekend were on the way to look for a new home. Walter and Jacqueline Bremer both died after they were hit head-on by an SUV on Godby Lane. We're told the woman driving the SUV was seriously injured. Police are still trying to figure out who caused the crash, but Boyle County Emergency Management says that stretch of Godby Lane can be very dangerous for drivers who aren't used to it.
A music video producer and director remains in critical condition this morning after being shot during a robbery in Lexington. Coleman Saunders had just gotten out of a taxi Sunday morning when 3 men suddenly jumped him and then shot him. This was near the intersection of North Limestone and East 7th Street. Police have not made any arrests in the case. Saunders has worked with several local artists, including Kyle Douglas, Sunday Best, and J.D. Shelburne. A fundraising website has been set up to help with Saunders' medical expenses. We have a link to that at WKYT.com. A Lexington restaurant is back open after being shut down by the health department last week. Red Bang Bang Chinese restaurant on West Maxwell shut down after health inspectors found mouse droppings inside the restaurant. The inspection came after a customer's photo began circulating on Facebook claiming to show a dead mouse in food ordered from Red Bang Bang. Owners were skeptical of the picture, but they said they have since made some major improvements to the interior of their restaurant. And after 2 more inspections since shutting down, health inspectors have found no more contaminations. In fact, they've gotten a 100 on their score there. Time this morning is 6:40, 20 before 7 on WKYT This Morning.
We're going to check up traffic right now on your Tuesday. Things looking pretty good. Not hearing of too many problems out there on the roads. Things look good of that view of the map. And let's take a look at the live drive cam at Harrodsburg and Pasadena.
Light traffic so far and no reports of any major issues this morning, so things are looking good and folks are moving along early on your Tuesday. A lot more news coming up on WKYT This Morning. It's great that you're with us starting this day off.
Drivers headed to work in New York City used to traffic jams, but many were shocked when they saw exactly what delayed yesterday's commute.
And we are going to be tracking a very nice run in the weather world, at least for a few days. Today it starts, but gets even better tomorrow when we get stuck in the 70s. Not a bad place to be. We'll take a closer look coming up.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with meteorologist Jim Caldwell.
Yesterday we had the first part of a big system work its way through the area, enhanced chances of showers and thunderstorms, and brought them to eastern Kentucky. Now the second front, the reinforcing shot of cool air, will move through today, and that is going to set us up for a fantastic Wednesday with highs in the upper 70s. Right before we went to commercial, I said stuck in the 70s. That's where we'll be tomorrow with low, very low humidity, hardly noticeable at all, and that nice weather will continue into your Thursday. That's probably the end point, though, because it gets a little more active beyond that. Upper 60s here in Lexington right now, 68 degrees. You got 66 toward Mount Sterling, upper 60s across southern and into eastern Kentucky as well. Down there, visibility is a little bit worse. We have dense fog advisory that includes Lincoln County, Adair County, down into Wayne County. So you get into those locations, visibility a little bit worse because of the rain that we picked up yesterday. A lot of moisture still hanging out. Here's that second front. It's just lined up to the north, and when it drops through, you can already see the air mass change. It's kind of lagging behind a little bit, and that's very characteristic of some of the cold air masses or the cooler air masses. They kind of are a little more sluggish. They're slower. The front's well off ahead of it, but that cooler air will come following it and roll in here for tomorrow. Here's the way that all kind of takes place. The dry and mild stuff. It will be mild. I mean, just downright comfortable, September-like feel coming your way for the final days of June. And even early July will look pretty active as well, though. Unfortunately, highs fall 5 to 10 degrees compared to where we were yesterday. Much drier air mass. We call this refreshing air because it's such a change. You're not dealing with that humidity, having to breathe that in. It's been tough for a lot of folks. Here we get into the afternoon and evening. Model picks up on a stray shower or two. It could very well happen. We break out into 1 or 2 when you get a front to pass through like we're going to get. Naturally, we could fire off 1, but it's not going to be a widespread chance. There you see, 11 o'clock, and then early tomorrow morning, right around this time, a little earlier, we're in the 50s. Comfortable change. Micah's back tomorrow, and we'll have to deal with that. The nice, comfortable chill in the air, and we're in pretty good shape after that as well into the daytime hours. Beyond the pleasant weather, we have a frontal boundary that will set up, energy that will set up essentially for the weekend, starting with Friday and going all the way through, and that could deliver rounds of showers and thunderstorms to Kentucky. You can see that here in our 7-day forecast. We highlight it. We highlight the nice stuff, but we also track the showers and thunderstorms here that arrive on Friday and that will continue all the way through the holiday weekend. Potentially some heavy rain rounds coming our way, not only here, but to our neighbors in West Virginia where they definitely don't need it. So, point is, today, tomorrow, Thursday, enjoy because it will be spectacular.
Oh, spectacular. We don't hear that very
like
often.
That, yeah.
You don't hear it often this time of year, but you're hearing it right now. Because
and then it'll be the weekend, and it may rain, but it'll still be the weekend.
That's right.
All right.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you, Jim. 6:47, our time right now.
So you're tired of waiting in traffic to get into town or around town here, you know, News Circle, Man of War,
Yeah,
those kind
right.
of things. How about riding a horse?
You know, you could do it here in horse country,
Yes,
right?
you could.
Motorists crossing into Staten Island were shocked when a cowboy on a horseback tried crossing the bridge during rush hour. The ride didn't last long, but it caused even more of a delay when the Port Authority police stopped the cowboy for questioning. No law forbids him from riding the horse, but he was cited for impeding traffic. Turns out the lone rider travels on horseback nationwide to spread his message of social justice and to raise money for starving children.
Aww.
So he's up to a good cause and just made
Look at that.
made his statement there in New York.
Cowboy in the city. I wonder if he had to pay the bridge fare. I hear those are pretty expensive up in New York.
Those could be steep as well. Hey, it's good to have you with us on WKYT this morning. We're going to be hearing from Dave Baker, our longtime sportscaster this morning, talking about the late Pat Summitt. That's coming up.
Yeah, more news. Stay with us.
Coming up, what's next in the Brexit battle? We're in Brussels where David Cameron and European leaders meet today. Plus, a look inside Rio's Olympic drug testing lab that's been shut down by the World Anti-Doping Agency. More real news coming up on CBS This Morning, next.
We continue to track the breaking news of the death of legendary basketball coach Pat Summitt.
News of her death came down just a few minutes ago this morning. She announced in 2011 that she was suffering from early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. WKYT's Dave Baker is joining us on the phone now to help us put Summitt's career into some context. Sad morning, Buzz. Good morning to you.
Well, good morning. It is sad, but in a way for anybody that has a loved one dealing with dementia, you have comfort from the fact that they're just not fighting that just awful disease anymore. And I can remember it was a shock. I want to say it was like in August of 2011 when Pat announced her diagnosis. And if you remember, she continued coaching in a limited capacity that 2011-2012 season. And I think it was her last game at Memorial that I was part of the broadcast for. And she was just an incredible coach. She was an incredibly fun person to be around. But she simply, and you can't overstate this, she changed the face of athletic opportunities for women, especially in the South, but all over the country. And, with the win she had, the doors that she opened, the people that she helped, her legacy is just incredible.
Well, and as you said, certainly in the days to come, there will be lots of memories of her, but just raising the bar for women's athletics and the attention and just raising the game to new heights.
Well, no question. I mean, it was like, at that point in time, and she started coaching, in the 70s, there were some people, that's when equality and things like that for women was really getting cranked up. And a lot of people, wanted them to have an option. She was like, no, there's no reason we can't compete like the men. And look what it did for the profile of Tennessee athletics. And a lot of people may not remember this. I mean, she came within a sliver of coaching at Kentucky.
Right.
I mean, they were negotiating a contract, and at the time, they didn't want to pay her moving expenses, and so she ended up at Tennessee. And look what happened there.
That was reported to be $200, the moving expenses.
It wasn't much, pal, because she was young and just starting out and didn't have a lot. But the influence, if you look around every program in the country, you look at what South Carolina was ranked number 1 in the country this year, and Dawn Staley, the coach. I mean, she's just, one of the most decorated players in U.S. Olympic history, and Pat coached her. And Matthew Mitchell tells a story all the time. When he was a young coach trying to break in, he was working Tennessee's camp, and Matthew would be out at night and he'd be playing music, and so he was late in camp the next morning. And he was dressed down pretty severely from Coach Summitt and instructed that if he was ever late again, he wouldn't be working anymore. But, of course, now look at what he's done. Kyra Elsie, who's on staff, played for Pat at Tennessee. And it's hard not to find a program around the country, but especially in the SEC, where there aren't Pat Summitt connections.
Well said. Dave Baker, thank you so much for coming on the phone with us this morning and speaking with us about the late Pat Summitt, who died this morning at age 64. Other news we're tracking this morning, a man recovering after being shot overnight in a robbery. WKYT was first on the scene when the victim called police from the Lansdowne Apartments on Malibu Drive. He told police 3 men robbed him nearby. He ran to the apartments where he lives and called police. It left a blood trail behind. No arrests have been made in that.
Also trending this morning, 3 robberies in Lexington may be connected. Police say 2 Speedways and a Waffle House robbed within an hour of one another around 5 o'clock in the morning. They tell us the descriptions of the 2 gunmen very similar in all 3 cases. No one was hurt in any of the robberies.
And we're going to check on the weather. We're anticipating a pretty nice day out there.
You know, and Jim Caldwell is in telling us that we should take advantage of it.
You better take advantage of it. Really nice stuff coming at you. And you usually don't see this type of stuff this time of year, but you are going to get a little taste of it. Now, it does happen. We get little ups and downs all the time, so enjoy it while you can, because our front for today will mean some much cooler and drier air will arrive here for Wednesday. Highs in the upper 70s. And we're getting ready to go into July. That is incredible stuff that we're talking about around here. And then nice on Thursday as well, as we're talking about that same air mass lingering, highs in the low 80s with plenty of sunshine still in the area. Let's break it all down. The complete 7-day forecast as we move through the week here. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're in good shape. Then what will happen is we'll have the true classic battle of the air masses set up, where we've got warm air, very warm air to the south, and then the cool air to the north. Kentucky will be right there in the middle battleground, and that means daily chance of showers and thunderstorms all through the holiday weekend. It doesn't look like one of those where you say hot as a firecracker on the 4th of July. It's not one of those, because we'll have the rain around to keep things a little bit cooler.
Well, at least it'll be cooler. That's good news.
That's right. Overall, the trend.
All right. Well, okay. Thank you very much. And nobody is more up to date than you to start your day. Thank you so much for being with us on WKYT. We invite you to stay with us. CBS This Morning is coming up next.
Have a great day.